it doesn't matter what you use, your teeth have to be sharp. They have to be the right length at the right angle, and your cutter, your rakers need to be set to the correct depth. Welcome to Hobby Hardwood, Alabama Sawmill, a mom and pop operation that produces some of the highest grade lumber in the country. Hey folks, welcome back to the Sawmill. It's Robert Milton, Hobby Hardwood, Alabama. Today we're going to be cutting up some pecan logs. I'm going to be bucking them for the sawmill, preparation for the sawmill. Pecan is tough. It's related to the hickory. It's actually one of the species in the hickory family. Hard as a rock, and big dog logs, and there's no way I'm going to be going to them without a chainsaw that's not razor sharp and cutting dead straight. If your chain isn't sharp, if it's not sharpened at the right angle, if you don't have the depth cutters, the rakers at the correct depth for that chain, and your bar isn't tuned up, then you're wasting your time, or at least you're burning up your bar, you're burning up your chain, and you're causing some damage. If the chain isn't cutting straight, it causes your bar to lead off and twist. You guys may have noticed that at some point. And what that does is it rubs the side of the chain against the saw kerf, and you're losing a lot of horsepower. I'm going to show you how I tune mine up. It actually goes fairly fast. I'll be going a lot slower simply because I'm doing a YouTube video, and we all know what I think of YouTube videos as far as speeding up the process. Basically puts it into warp speed negative. But this is really important for you folks out there that have a chainsaw and you want it to cut better. There's nothing that will bring a grin to somebody's face is to hand them a well-tuned, sharp chainsaw and tell them to dig in with a log. It's just fun. We have quite a few different chainsaws that we use, all the way down from a little bitty electric one to this one. This is a 52-inch bar here, big chain. Sometimes you just need a big chainsaw. This is a Steel 500i using one of the steel light bars. It's a 28-inch bar. The Pro chain is yellow. Doesn't have the anti-kickback devices because it just slows things down. I'm not sure they're not more dangerous. And this is Steel's first fuel-injected saw. You might notice that it looks like my bar is upside down, and that's because it is. Over a period of time, you'll start to get flat spots and grooves on the bar, and it needs to be dressed. You don't need to bother dressing it because you just flip the bar over and you got a nice clean side down there. So you'll see a lot of folks with their bar flipped over. It's not because they're making a mistake, it's simply because they're doubling the life of the bar before they have to get it dressed again. So one thing you might notice, or maybe you didn't know, but on every tooth, there's a little line right there. That shows the angle that the tooth is supposed to be ground at. So you need to be cutting with your file to the same angle as what's on the tooth. Now certainly you can change that up, but that is the manufacturer's optimized cutting angle. So when you're sharpening these things up, you need to make sure that your teeth come to about the same length. You don't want some old snaggletooth looking chainsaw chain because it's going to pull off to the side. There's many ways to sharpen a chain. The classic is with a file. This is how the old timers do it, and I do it because ultimately a file is the perfect tool for sharpening a chainsaw. That's why it's called a chainsaw file. Each file is manufactured to a specific tolerance. It fits a certain chain, and there's really nothing better than using a file to sharpen a tooth. There's really nothing slower than using a single file to sharpen a tooth as well. So I've got a Steel Professional, it's a USG Professional chainsaw sharpener, motorized one. It's the same one that the dealers use up at the house, and I'll show you that one a little bit later. And I do like sharpening with a file. If you're out in the field, this works good, and there's all kinds of other little tools. Trust me, I've used them. I've used the little machining tool, I've used the Dremel tools, I've used everything by everybody, and the bottom line is it doesn't matter what you use, your teeth have to be sharp. They have to be the right length at the right angle, and your cutter, your rakers need to be set to the correct depth. Steel came out with this little bad boy. This is a do-all file raker dropper, super duper, super easy, anybody can use it, sharpening tool. Looks kind of complicated. It's not. Basically what it's got is got two files in it, one there, and it's got a flat file for dropping the rakers. And it does it all at the same time on the same stroke. So the problem with using a chainsaw file by itself is you're sharpening the teeth, but you're not dropping the depth rakers. That's these little guys right here. And if you're not dropping them, you're not getting a good cut. Now, a lot of folks, when they tighten a chain, they will let the bar sag down. See how that bar's got a little wiggle to it? So if you tighten it with the bar drooped, when you put it in a log and you load it up, it's going to lift up a little bit and the chain's going to get loose. So that's how come sometimes you'll tighten up a chain and the very first time you put it in a log, it's loose again, simply because you didn't tighten it up with the bar in a loaded position. The easiest way to do that is to push it down like if it's sawing, then tighten the chain. Step 37 is put it vise. Yes, you can sharpen it on the ground in the woods under your knee, and that'll work. Do you really think that's the best way to do it? So what you do, it's got a little arrow. That's the raker file. That's the actual tooth file. These are guides. It sits down in the tooth. The file is sharpening the cutter. This handle lines up with that line. So as long as the handle is at this correct angle here, as long as the handle's at this correct angle, you're going to get the correct angle on the tooth. And then as long as this and this are touching, bridging the other cutters, you're going to get the proper depth drop on the raker. So basically you go and you're not having to press hard. You're trying to be smooth. I normally do about 5 to 8. So let's look at that tooth now. If you look, it's extremely sharp now. There's no dulling on this tip. And this is in line with that line. And you'll notice how the depth gauge has been cut down a pretty good bit. This depth gauge in this tooth, that distance between the two, it limits feeding or overfeeding of your chain, but it allows you the maximum depth of cut without bogging your saw. Main thing is you're trying to maintain your angle and your count. Like a lot of things, you can actually hear the tooth get sharper. The first cut, kind of rough. Then as the tooth gets resharpened, it'll smooth out and the sound will get smoother. Look at all the filings that are coming off. I mean, I'm cutting into this thing. You use a sharp file. Every time you go to the hardware store, just buy you a new file or a dozen, because it matters. Don't try to sharpen a chain with a dull file. So I'm done with that side. That went pretty quick. This is a 28-inch bar. Now we're going to reset things and go to the next side. Tighten everything. So same thing, put the file in, give it That's it. This chain is razor sharp. It's adjusted correctly. The depth cutters are set correctly. You know, I just put my hand on a razor sharp chainsaw. I hope y'all saw that. And I'm not bleeding, but the good news is it dug in. I mean, it's digging in. Never do this unless you like to bleed. You can do that. You'll still bleed occasionally, but you'll bleed a lot less. Let's see how this sharpened chain does on these fairly decent size pecan logs. 28-inch bar. .28-inch bar cut through this pecan, which is a hickory. Just blew right through it. Good sharp chain. There is no substitute. Let's go get another one. The mark of a sharp saw are big chips. If you're cutting powder, your chain is dull. If you're throwing big chips like these, that chain is sharp. You'll notice I start and stop my chainsaw a lot. If you got a good chainsaw, it's easy to start and stop. Leg lock method, compression release, hold it right here, give it a little tug. Starts. There's no waving of the blade. There's no way it can come back and get me. Very safe, very calm. Now remember, this is old dry pecan, which is a hickory, and that blade is just dropping through it. 28 inches long, it's just cutting through it like it's nothing. So I'll talk about the J-cut method, which happens naturally if the log is wider than the bar. But one of the things I really like about it is when you make it, it will drop the cut away from you and roll it forward. Watch this one drop. It drops forward and rolls away. 40 inches maybe. Just another log. Let's get her. Even on a small log, I'm not a big fan of cutting all the way through. I like to do basically a J-cut, cut through, pull out, go back in and leave a hinge on the back. That way it doesn't pinch my bar. I can walk around the other side, just make a cut. Now remember what I was talking about the J-cut a little bit earlier, how it has a tendency to roll the log piece, the cut piece away from you? This is a through cut. Watch when it hits, it actually rolls towards me. I mean, that wasn't a bad one, but I've had them roll way towards me and chase me. I don't like being chased by a hunk of wood I just cut off. As a matter of fact, you can even see me watch it hit and take a half a step back, kind of anticipating it coming after me. Whew. All right, y'all, so sharpen the chain, get it all running good. Come out here, whack through a bunch of old pecan logs that are as hard as a brick. Ain't no big deal. Just part of a sawmill life. Anyway, if y'all don't mind, hit the like button, the subscribe button. They're down there on the bottom there. It doesn't cost you a penny. It just means to YouTube that somebody's actually watching my videos. So someday I may get paid for doing this. We'll see. But if nothing else, it lets me keep count, seeing how many people are enjoying and watching. So until next time, we will see y'all later. Have a good one. Thanks for visiting our sawmill. Click on the links above to see more of our videos. Thanks for visiting our sawmill. Click on the links above to see more of our videos.